Hi, and welcome to another Dance Mama podcast. We are in conversation today. I am so excited because this has been in the planning for quite some time with the fantastic dancers and motherhood. And I'm really excited to say that I've got Ying here and also Grace Whitworth, who are four US dancers who came together for one Instagram account. That also includes Ingrid Silva, that you may know from Dance Theatre of Harlem, and Alison DeBonner, who is a former first soloist at Ballet West. But here with us today, and it's also a recording on Thanksgiving, so they're giving up their precious time, is Shin and Grace.
Hey, thanks for
Hi, hi
having us.
everyone.
So great to have you here again in the spirit of Thanksgiving. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
So we're going to kick off with a really easy kind of straightforward thing of tell us about how Dancers and Motherhood started. Either of you.
Well,
Jump.
Ying would probably know a little bit more about. I felt like I was brought on as the fourth, maybe, I think. And I think this is also appropriate to do on Thanksgiving. I wanted to say, shout out, this is now our second year to this day.
Right,
We our very, very,
right,
very, very first meeting 2 years ago on Thanksgiving.
right.
All together. So to kind of launch the Instagram account and talk all things. And then we realized the four of us getting together how important it was to even sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah,
We knew that this was going to be something really great
right,
amongst the four of us and the whole dance community. But
right.
um, yeah, I don't know, Jenying, if you want to add.
Yeah. So the origin story started when I got pregnant and I got first of all I was very kind of scared. I just felt like I don't know who to talk to. Then Lauren Post at the time was just delivered her new baby, and I was working with her for the ABT summer company Lauren Post started called a collab. I was making a piece for her. Then I was just telling her, I was like, Lauren, can you start a mother group, like a chat group, so there are some people we can connect, we can talk to. Then she just felt, oh, that's a good idea. Then she started gathering everyone. I was trying to helping her like do Zoom meetings. We were growing so fast, the Instagram group, chat group wasn't like enough. Then we start WhatsApp group. That's what we still have nowadays. We like just keep growing bigger and bigger. But all the conversations are very private inside the chat group. Like you can't really share. Like even something you hear about it, like you can't really share about it. So I think Ingrid was talking to me another day saying we should start a Instagram account. So two of us start thinking, then who else can be perfect? Then of course Grace and Allison's. I worked with Allison for one of her summer intensive. I told there I brought my daughter, like I just give her a heads up. So, oh, I'm gonna bring my daughter here, and she's like, don't worry about it. I got you covered. And her son was a little older than my daughter. They were just playing in the hallway while I'm teaching and rehearsing. They would like peek their head, at the door. They would like run in the studio for like a couple minutes and go out. Yeah, they were just an environment I never really felt like so included. And I'm just thinking Allison will be another like, great addition. And Grace actually been doing something very actively for Dance Moms. She started this like support group on the hosting like Zoom meetings
Mm.
regularly outside our WhatsApp group. That's like, yeah, so just everyone who want to contribute and I was thinking who has a stamina can keep it going. So that's how we get together.
Amazing. And it's interesting because obviously things have sort of developed in the UK in a different way, and we've kind of got lots of different groups working towards the same ambition of having more equity and making things fairer. But there's definitely a distinction between the larger companies that are really well resourced and them a bit similarly having their own sort of WhatsApp groups between their mums. We know that the Royal Ballet has supported over 22 mothers in fairly recent years. So they've kind of got a setup where they're able to really support each other.
Yeah.
Whereas with Dance Mama, I just felt as a freelancer or somebody going in and out of organisations, there was nothing really there in the same way, and
Yeah.
we only had like a fact sheet 10 years ago to really help us in terms of physical support, and really it was focused on pregnancy. And I don't know if you both feel the same, but the pregnancy bit was actually okay because you haven't got another person running around.
Yeah.
It was
Not
fourth
in
trimester.
recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this fourth trimester that everyone is speaking of? And that was actually the hardest for me, especially. Yeah. Pregnancy
Yeah.
was easy.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about your kind of your personal stories around sort of pregnancy and then postnatal, just because I think again sharing those, and you've probably shared them more times than you'd care to mention, but I think having kind of just that brief understanding of where you're coming from and what sort of working context that you're in and whether or not you felt supported at that time.
Mm.
I can go.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think, well, Jin Ying, we both share a similar story because we had babies during the pandemic, which made it very unique. And it was something I think that kind of sparked I had a lot of issues in the fourth trimester, but as a child, you know, when you're growing up and you imagine your life as a mama, things kind of they look very magical. And then I just never would have ever thought in my wildest dreams that having my firstborn son would be during a major worldwide pandemic. So that was quite a hardship for me going through. Already, I think in the niche role that we have as a dance career, trying to find support was really hard because everybody in the world was going through something very tragic. So finding that support was really hard. And of course, I ended up being, I think this statistic is like, excuse me, like 1 out of 8 women will experience postpartum depression or anxiety.
Mm.
And I was one of those 8 that experienced, and I had no idea. So just the information behind that as well. I didn't start to really experience it until my baby was around 9 months old. And in my head, the things that I knew about postpartum depression and anxiety were always that first maybe 6 weeks after birth. You know, when you go to your checkup and the doctor gives you a questionnaire and life seems pretty okay at that point. You know, I just have a new baby. Everything is wonderful. Like I look at him and I'm very happy. And I remember the doctor saying, okay, well, great. I'm glad that you feel great. I'll see you at your annual. And I was like in shock. I was like, okay. So to me, that hit me very like a ton of bricks that now everything is focused on the baby and I'm not going to see my doctor about me for another year. So I sat with that and then focus all went towards the baby, of course. And then I just started feeling the anxiety start to well up until I had to call my doctor and say, I think I have a real problem here. I can't focus. I have extreme anxiety. I'm having intrusive thoughts. And she said that I might be a great candidate for group therapy. So that was also a struggle I don't have to get into, but then I finally found a group of women who I could talk to on a weekly basis. And that was helping a little bit, but also not the kind of support that I needed because they didn't understand my career.
100%.
Yeah, so it just made it very difficult to relate. And I really needed support in that way to relate to someone who knew what it's like to look at the mirror and see a body in a different way. My body doesn't feel like my own body anymore. And that's a big deal because I look in the mirror every day. So so needless to say, I was doing a work with Martha Graham, and I mentioned Ying, and I think you could just tell I was overwhelmed. And you were nice enough to say, "There's this WhatsApp group. You should
You gotta join us.
you gotta join it." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, yeah, I don't really know." And the minute I joined, I just felt just oh, such comfort in knowing there's a group of women going through exactly what I'm going through, and the support and need. I could just throw something out there, and there's right now, I think there's about maybe 62 other dance moms in
Yeah.
the group
Amazing.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, so you feel really heard.
Yeah.
And that's my long, short story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just to pick up on a couple of things there, absolutely. I think it's about the real niche of a niche that
Yes.
dance mamas are and dancing parents are, because we've not only now got a parental thing going on, and for you both, three things going on of dance career and the pandemic and what that meant to dance specifically. Obviously, we know it's a great crisis for all of us, but there are particular things about dance that it is still in recovery, and so in some ways in the UK, slow recovery from, which is challenging. But absolutely not having that understanding with other mothers who are non-creative or non-dancers or not in a vocation is huge, and having that connection, which is absolutely similarly across the pond, where I felt there was a huge gap. And I'm sorry to say, anybody listening, it's not really lessened as I've continued through my parenthood. There is still that otherness there,
Yeah.
at school gates or the nursery gates, where if those are the only people then you're socializing with for periods, whereas before you've spent a lot of time in a company with people who've grown up in similar training systems to you and all of that culture, there are times where it's still quite alienating. And then, yes, having that remote support from your other dancing community who are parents can really, really help. And I'm so glad that there was something that was developed organically for you, by the wonderful woman sitting on this call with us. So
Right.
I know.
tell us,
I'm so grateful. And today is the greatest day to give thanks for that. So thank you.
Jin, tell us your story.
Um, well, we both had a baby in the pandemic. Um, so I'm a Chinese, and my mom is a very typical Chinese mom. So in her mind, it's like, I'm gonna help you, take care of your baby. That's very much a tradition. But of course, that's like not possible. Actually, after I gave birth, and my baby didn't see her grandma until she's 3.5 years old when the China finally opened. So all this time, the loneliness is definitely the word. Like I'm already minority in the country. I'm becoming even smaller group. The isolation is crazy. I'm not just saying like a pandemic is hard as that kind of isolation. It's an isolation, in the middle of the night, you have to breastfeeding all by yourself on the couch, then just like black around you. It's like a black hole just consuming you. Were you being consumed at the time? It's really like you don't know who actually can hear how you feel. That's a moment that really registers me. Again, when I think of that time, that period of time, it's that kind of feeling. And then, like Grace said, you have to go to therapy when you need it. It's very easy, especially I think it's all dance moms probably because it's such a smaller group. It's really hard for people to know exactly what you're going through. I think depression and like, anxiety for us is very easy to develop because there's a huge stress coming from what if I'm not gonna make it back to my
Mhm.
career
Yeah.
afterwards. Especially that's a lot of expectations or at least that's what people's a common very common imagination for dancers post motherhood um career. Everybody's thinking, oh, what are you gonna do after this? And you're asking yourself too. So this is one part I feel is important because for me right now I realize it, how important to mention the eagerness trying to make it back to our career. So that's why we post on Instagram. We're doing fitness, we're doing workout, we're like still dancing, practicing right away, almost right away. Whatever we can try to prove. Like we're still here, we're still fighting for the spot, but it's the fear of being pushing out. And that stress is we all going through, but we didn't really show it. We don't want people hold on to it as a weakness to take us out because we are already halfway there. And but my regret is I didn't show much or more the realness of the hardship of motherhood. So a lot of dance moms, when they see this kind of like post, they will feel, oh, she's really making it, she make it look kind of easy. But it really is not easy. Your body will never be the same. Your mind will never be the same. And oh, can we talk about, since we talk about postpartum, can we talk about that P post? Is that
Okay.
okay? Is that allowed to
Yeah, let's
talk
talk
about?
about that.
Talk about anything.
So
Just before we go on to that, though, I mean, there's a
yeah,
couple of things in there in terms of the identity piece, which is huge.
right.
And
Huge.
what has been really helpful over the last few years as well is we've now got some growing evidence research wise in dance in the States and in the UK. So you're probably familiar now. We've got something called the International Parenting and Dance Network. So I'm wearing
Hmm.
actually proudly today my earrings that I got in Texas with Howdy and a hat a couple of months ago when I was over at Texas Tech Uni, hosted by Professor Ali Duffy. So Ali's written an academic book called Dancing Motherhood, better get that right, which has started capturing that information and the hardship and the challenge, particularly in the American context. But I think I provided a bit of British context in there, just so it's sort of a bit wider, I suppose. But also in the UK, I'm halfway through a PhD. I say that laughing because I can never quite believe I'm doing it, where I'm tracking 6 postnatal professional dancers in the UK who are doing more than performing in terms of their work. They're doing lots of different things in terms of movement, direction, and choreography, etc. But also, it'd be remiss of me not to mention the work going on at Queen's University Belfast as well, and with my own supervisor, Professor Angela Pickard, who has also written academic reports now with Parents in Performing Arts campaign. But particularly, Angela has continued working on that, interviewing over 100. I mean, we've interviewed like maybe 80 on Dance Mama in a very kind of open, semi-journalistic type raising awareness way, whereas Angela is probably clocking up to over 100. And that identity piece is really important. And I think hopefully by the fusing of all of these approaches, we can really start getting some real change in there. Absolutely. But in the meantime, like you say, the reality of that isolation and loneliness and physical challenge it is huge. So I was just going to nip in and sew that all together. But do carry on, Shin.
Thank you for that. I really hope from the academic world, I hope you can connect us more to the professors you know who are doing the research so we can provide data, of course. And I'm also getting my higher degree right now. I'm thinking it. I'm going to graduate in May for my MFA at NYU. And I do feel there's like such a lacking in that part. Like we're so
Yeah.
minority, you know. So if you can actually send articles, send your research, whatever, if we can be involved, will be helpful. We'll love to be there.
That would be great. I mean, the thing is as well, like I think what we're also showing is the role modeling, and like you say, that
Yeah,
although things are hard, the other way around of looking at it is really difficult, but it's also really possible if the
yeah,
support is there and the understanding. And part of my PhD is looking at postnatal rehab in terms of things like seeing if people have had diastasis recti or pelvic floor dysfunction, and measuring turnout, balance, and hamstring length periodically for
amazing.
2 years to see what
Yeah,
those changes are. And then
yeah,
also the interviews sort of revealing what those individuals might have been doing at that time. Now, it's exciting that I can do that. However,
I know.
I hasten to add, these tests I've been doing in lounges, kitchens, front of house, studios, labs, because even though we're a smaller country, trying to get mums geographically into one sports science lab
Not
has so
possible.
many barriers, and not just logistics, like the actual sports science departments don't allow children, which was interesting from your Instagram a few weeks ago,
Yes.
into the space. So
That
there's
Yeah,
a whole bigger thing. We're a bigger part of a huge omission and overlooking of women's health in
yeah,
research, full stop, which really has held us back. But we're kind of also at the forefront of starting to capture this data and get change, and hopefully start to change the system that is, it's not built for us.
yes,
no,
absolutely not.
I do think step one is gathering all of that data. It's going to make a world of difference just to have something tangible to offer to our leaderships in the dance community, because as of right now, I feel like the education on postnatal care, maternity, it's just not there. So there, like we keep talking about, there is an omission and a lacking, and then the research is going to fill that gap. So I
This
commend you
is a
on
yeah,
starting, because it's happening, and I think
yeah,
now maybe even pre 2020, I feel like in the States especially, it's just not at the forefront of importance, it feels like, even though women make up a majority of the dance community. I just feel right now the expectation is you reach to age 35, you have a baby, and you quit.
yeah,
And so there's not even a majority of mothers in a dance company to offer that support. So they say, I've reached out to, and I'm not going to mention companies, but I know of a company that has a mother in the dance company. I reached out to their leadership and said, I'm just curious as to what you're doing to support that particular mom. And the response was, well, it's only one. There's
right.
only one mom. I'm like, well, okay. That's the point. You have one mother, and she needs support. And
Yeah.
so that should have been eye-opening. And if it's not, then we have a real problem.
I feel like a few facts we can mention now. Like first one is age. Like you mentioned, come to age 35. Why dance mom consider we can only have my baby even consider to pregnant when such like this consider when you're 35, you consider you're in a high risk
Yeah.
category already. Why? Because the career is not supporting it. You have to have a huge risk, like hanging on your head is thinking, I'm pregnant, I'm probably not gonna come back, I'm gonna lose my job. So that's like a big, big thing. And second, we're talking about postpartum care. I was seeing how our post is. This is a real story. We did a really kind of funny post, but the issue is not funny because after post, you give birth, you come back dancing. Doesn't matter how long, even a long time. Your kid's probably like a toddler now, but still be a little, when you dance or jump or leap. And when we post that on Instagram, and a lot of people commented, you don't have the knowledge of pelvis floor, therapy. You should totally do that. You guys are well known or well trained dancers. You should definitely know that. We know that, but they cost $300 per section. Our insurance does not cover it, and we have paid childcare to go back to work in the studio. So we don't have any extra money. All the money coming in is coming out to the childcare. We don't have any extra money to pay 300 per session. We don't have sponsors. We don't have any other like actual income. Sometimes we have, I think this is a very real story me and Yinger was talking about. We're thinking taking kids on tour. Like some dance mom are just not really supporting it. They're just thinking, you shouldn't even do it if it's not possible. But we have to do it because we don't have the money to pay childcare.
Yeah.
We don't have people watching her because every day, $25 per hour. That's a reality we're facing, but no one really thinking that's actually a problem. How come that's not a problem?
Yeah. No, again, we talked about a few things there. Just sort of pick up on that. The assumption that you will stop is just there. That's kind of lack of an enlightenment and forward thinking that whether you actually can keep going to a much mature age in your dancing career. Of course you can. We're in the 21st century now, and we've got lots of different things going on. Just a few things in terms of the education piece around health for pre and postnatal care. In the UK, we now have a charity called the Active Pregnancy Foundation, which I'm on the scientific advisory board for, but that has a piece of awareness raising education that goes to our NHS staff about the chief medical officer guidelines for pre and postnatal activity in the general public. So there's an attempt to try and educate medical practitioners in the UK about activity in general, pre and postnatally, and that there are kind of evidence bases around that, which is and I think there are American guidelines, there are definitely Canadian ones, and I know that. But also with that, extrapolated and kind of developed with that, we've only just now got pre and postnatal guidelines for professionals, which have been developed by a pelvic health physio in the UK called Rachael Kuik, who's also on a research advisory group, and she's had those peer reviewed. So she's recently presented those to English National Ballet for them to use, because she is the kind of the freelance pelvic health physio. But that brings us back to a couple of Shin's, like there's so many points Shin's raising, is that particular ballet company and the Royal Ballet have access to 13 different therapies within, the support of their contracts when they become a parent. Wow. So they've got access to, it's like the Rolls Royce. Most dance companies or freelancers are similar. be relying on their health insurance plans, which will be lower plans because they're on lower salary, and 100% what they are earning, they will be paying back in terms of childcare and travel, which is exactly what I did in a non-dancing role when I was head of learning at Rambert. I didn't come home with a profit, even with that kind of loftier title. So I completely agree with you on that. And I think that is the challenge, that even if you do go and find somebody, the chances that they understand dance or have that expertise is minimal, which is totally why, again, it's not that useful to the States, but we've started a map of where we found these people so that others can try and tap into that. But again, it will be the location and the logistics which is challenging. So we know that we have got another member of our research advisory group who has an online resource that can be, you'd have to kind of, again, it's a bit do it yourself and guided in that way, but is another way of trying to make that support for female functional and professionals more accessible, because finding that expertise, I mean, we're in such a crazy mess with it because there's just less than a handful of companies getting it anywhere near what it should and could be. And how do we transfer those practices across in circumstances that are very, very different? And also, finally, with my visit to Texas, you know, I have come back from that quite, I don't even know how to describe it, moved, because as a British person with full rights, reproductive rights, being in a state where the ban is in place was hugely alien and really, really disturbing. And knowing that some of your community are trying to develop their careers in those circumstances, I genuinely, emotionally, really, really feel for you, and know that there's lots of support. You know, I know we can't do anything, but from this end of things, but on that, because it felt just completely unimaginable. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back after this short interlude, reflections about Dance Mama from our community and partners.
Dance Mama for me was literally a lifeline. I'm excited to move my body without holding a human. Like, okay, yes, there's more people doing what I'm doing. Do you mean, like, it's not just me?
It's meant the world turning up today. It really has. I am going to get emotional.
Sorry.
It's just been so long since I've been in the studio and moving and doing it with a group of other women and not feeling like it's a problem.
The visibility of parents in dance is hugely important, because if you can't see it, you don't think you can be it. Everything is planned with the parent and the child in mind.
A whole hour to dance and be creatively expressive and share thoughts together in a creatively expressive way and do something for our bodies and our souls. I mean, amazing.
It's really important for Sadler's Wells to be supporting Dance Mama. Parents working in dance can come together and talk, have peer support, and give that opportunity to continue their practice.
It's a sense of reconnecting to actually, oh gosh, yes, I remember. This is what I used to do. This is what I do.
Being a parent takes a village, and being a dancer also takes a village.
So I would just say get involved, because this community for me has been really life-changing.
Yeah, I feel for us. I was talking to, I think Grace, I was sending a group message in our Dancer Motherhood chat group.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying it would be so important for us just deliver the information and then show people what is real, what real dance motherhood looks like, and normalize it. It's very important. Just make people feel it's normal gonna have kids around, where women can expect in motherhood in dance career. So it's hard for American dance companies to enforce anything because we are pretty much all across the country is self-funded. We're not like government funded. You can request grant or anything. So that's like one thing is all the money need to be, I know it's not coming to us. So the reality is, but at least the attitude towards motherhood can normalize it. Like that's like really the top one hope we can have it.
It's
It's
just
like,
it's baby steps.
yeah, just baby step. If we can just thinking it's normal if she bring a kid to the studio, where maybe she missed one rehearsal today, where she take a sick day because her kid is sick. Like that's what we just hoping for. But
Yeah.
that is like we can't even break that door yet. I'm like so grateful for you to do all this research and the work. So that's why I was saying keep sharing the information with us. We want all other moms to say what the dance mom in different countries, what they have, even we don't have it yet, but at least we can normalize it. Like normalize our struggles and
Yeah.
we can all grow together, baby step one at a time.
Yeah.
But we just have to really, the basic education is very important for us right now. Yeah.
It always feels quite strange, doesn't it, as well, I think, as dancers.
Mm-hmm.
So much of our work, and particularly in contemporary, I think there's kind of a utopian attitude,
Absolutely.
which really is brilliant when you're in it, but really trips us up in this particular on this particular issue, should I say. And there has been a good example of a round table. I think it happened in New York, but it was with urban bushwomen. And because their approach is much more of a community base in terms of their rehearsal, and they have normalized having children in the studio. Similar to like Crystal Pite, when she's making work over here, will bring her child into the studio, and that will, that's just accepted. I think there are these examples of really good practice, but I think a lot of the time it's where there are organizations where there aren't a lot of parents in the leadership roles who are scared or afraid of anything else coming into competition with their vision, because now the artistic vision has another kind of competitor in jockeying for first place in terms of caring responsibilities and actually raising the next generation, which isn't something small, is it, at all? I mean, I don't know, Grace, if I don't know if you can speak to that.
Well, yeah. Speaking of bringing children into the workplace specifically, I know. I think one of the things Dancer and Motherhood, the Instagram page, I feel like we could do a lot more behind the scenes, but in terms of just putting it out there for others to see, other parents to see what's possible. I know before Instagram, this is before all the social media, when I was still studying dance, I saw one of my choreographers, became a choreographer of mine in the future, but she had 3 children, and she was bringing all of her kids into the studio, holding a baby while choreographing. And I just thought, wow, my jaw dropped to the floor. Like, how beautiful is that? That her children are going to grow up in a studio and see what she does, and see her passion, and see her dream, and understand what drive means. And so in a way, I think that inspiration is palpable on Dancers and Motherhood Instagram. Hopefully it can inspire in a wider range that it is possible to bring your children to the workplace. And now they have a deeper understanding, and hopefully the next generation will it's normal to go to the theater and the dance studio and see the hard work behind the scenes. A lot of times we see the big ballets and it's supposed to look easy on stage, that it's effortless, but there's a lot of effort that goes into it. And now we can share with our children, the hard work and effort that goes into chasing your dreams and your passion. So I do think it is important. It's not always feasible. I know I have a very active toddler. And so there's been occasions where I had to bring him in and I was counting 5, 6, 7, 8 to the dancers. And then he's going 9, 10, 11, 12. And all the dancers are smiling, but they're losing count. And I can only bring him in so many times, but it leads me back to this idea of community. And dancers in motherhood can be that community for others. We have I think Ingrid is putting together a babysitter list in different states in case you're touring and you need a babysitter and you're going to a state, you can call this babysitter, and when you take your kids on tour, that could be someone that can watch your child, like just to make things possible. We're finding kind of backdoor ways of making things work.
I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, there's a great organization, again, it's Canadian, called Balancing Act Canada, which I don't know if you've come into contact with them, but they are fantastic and they really work to support their artists in that way. And they're based within a theatre. So I think that really helps. But there's also, I think, is it the Parent and Artist League? I think that's also based in the States, but seems, again, very heavily focused around probably actors and musicians, whereas dancers need something really, really specific because our body is so much, yes, actors, it is their instrument as well, but it's more amplified, right? And needs support in a very different way. And I felt, although there was some support in the UK, that was the bit that's really missing, is that technical understanding of what is going on, and then across kind of your physicality, your mental health, your creativity, and your logistics, because it's kind of affecting so many, you on every cell level, isn't it, basically? Yes. Thing. In terms of the kind of, are there any moments where your dancing's really helped your parenting?
Well, I think dance is like great education for kids, right? It's a mind body coordination, expressive, and my daughter is very free to express herself. That's why she was just expressing how unhappy she was because I wasn't like doing her hair. She really needs hair done. Yeah, I think the free of expression is like amazing. I think that definitely helped. I feel like because I really trying to bring my kids in the studio on tour, like first of all, it's financial problem, but now, she actually go to school, she be able to spend most of the time in school, but still trying to take her on tour once in a while. So she sees a different lifestyle and get used to theater. Because she's been in the theater so much now, she can sit behind the curtain watching the whole 2-hour show. And she can go out dancing in the intermission when the curtain is down. She can go out dancing, do her whole act. Like she do this whole act for everyone, all the dancers. And then she come back to the corner, then the curtain opens with the second act. And that's incredible. She's been with me in the most, like in China, the biggest stage, and NCPA is like the National Theater. And she was just with me for my season, New York season and New York City Center. She was right on the first, first swing, the big curtain. When the people come over trying to open the curtain, they'll be telling her, oh, just immediately she's thinking, I have to get away. Then they will tell her, oh, it's okay, just move a little bit. I was so just like moved. I was thinking, oh, kids in that environment, people don't feel you got to get out of here. It's just like, oh, move a little bit, let me do my thing. Now you can come back. That kind of just a small, gesture make you feel, oh, this is so normal. But actually, it's so not normal in that mother's reality. Yeah, but that's something I'm really trying to do, and we were really focusing on showing other moms, trying to make it normal. We all know it's not normal to bring your kids to work. It's so stressful. The transportation is hard. You constantly get distracted. But mom is still trying to make it normal, and that effort just means everything because people will see it. Even their work environment right now probably not allow them to do it, but at least they will know somebody's doing it. Maybe next time I can ask again
That's right.
to
And
bring the kids in. Yeah.
if you can see it, then it
Yeah.
gives more confidence to be able
Yeah.
to, okay, there is someone else like me, and this is how I can go about it. Because are you the only parent at Martha Graham Company at the moment, or are there
Yeah.
others? You're the only.
I'm the only. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
not a
And I'm trying to encouraging everyone. So please, I'll have kids. So you all watch my kids now. I can repay the favor so I can watch your kids when you have a baby. Yeah.
So in terms of maternity policies for both of you, are those things that have had to be developed because you're the first one there in that position?
I think, well, for me, my company is smaller and 501c3. There's we don't have like an HR department, or my artistic director has many hats. So in terms of maternity and me being the first one, this was our meeting. She said, "Please just let me know what you need," and I said, "Okay." So nothing was written down. There was no contract. There was no maternity policy per se. But we let this be the first of our conversation on how to deal with a dancer becoming a mother. And I just wanted to piggyback a little bit, saying I was heavily dancing in the company at the time Walt was born, my son was born. And I've since transitioned into the front of the room. So now I do more of the rehearsal directing, restaging, assisting, teaching side of it, which has been a huge transition to me, speaking of identity and being a dancer all my life. Now I'm in the front of the room. But how motherhood has really helped to shape how I address people and dancers in the front of the room. I feel there's such a care I give to my child, and I feel like I can give that same care to the dancers and the people in the room. So it's like I've had practice, and it's really deepened the way I see the dancers in the room. So I think being a mother and a dancer at the same time can only enhance what we've learned throughout our whole entire career. I think you mentioned this in your TED Talk. You kind of put into practice your tenacity, your determination, and your drive. All these things that we have as characteristics dancers throughout our whole career is now being challenged, but also comes out stronger in the end. And I think it can shape and form the way you dance on stage or the way you are in front of the room.
Oh, I mean, I think, thank you. The discipline is really, it will not be the parents who don't have a nappy and the cream and all of that stuff. We will have all of that stuff and then some, probably a first aid kit and some hairpins and stuff in the nappy bag, ready to go. And those skills continue definitely as they grow up. So my children are now 8 and almost 12. My God. I can't believe it. And in terms of setting them up for their various activities at school and after school is like setting a props table. Tonight, their costume is laid out for the next day.
Oh, wow.
all the props are laid out in different places around the house, ready to go, to keep them organized, and keep greasing the wheels. And
You're 10
again,
steps ahead of
yeah, like it's definitely, I think all of that stuff kind of ends up culturally falling slightly more on the mum than the dad in a cisgendered relationship. But I think definitely the dance background really helps, because the level of complexity in terms of scheduling and things like that just exponentially grows. I think
Oh man.
in terms of creativity though, and Gina, I've heard you talk about in terms of value and speaking value financially to make the case for dance, and we've definitely seen in our country over the last 14 years less public investment, which has really negatively affected state education for dance, and then dance qualifications, and then some companies closing and stuff. It's been quite a grim picture over the last few years. So we're constantly having to make the case for dance as a subject in its own right, and not getting swallowed up in sport or performing arts, that we're flexible and do both. But it reminds me of, I interviewed Kate Flatt. So she's the original choreographer for Les Mis. And she made that show with a 4-month-old and a 4-year-old, because Cameron McIntosh gave her a nanny and a flat. Now, that was in the mid-80s. And I always get so cross, because she definitely attributes the imbuement in the creativity to her maternal experience. For example, she gave them a task where they had to walk up and down the room as if they're on a catwalk when they were prostitutes, but they have STDs. Now, that is not an easy creative task to set a young person. But she said, I'm able to hold them in us doing that exploration because I'm a mum, because I've got that maternal instinct. And, when a dancer comes off a long flight and they're on their period, they will be coming to me. I will play that role in the company. And that's where I think, we know the monetary value of Les Mis. We don't need to over-labor that. But because of its authenticity in terms of the artistry in it, and I think that really beautifully demonstrates why we need more mature women in a sector that is full of sexism, ageism, sizes, all of these things, whereas it's missing moms in the room going, hang on a minute, wait a minute, and really taking care. And I don't know if you felt that might have been your experience, the actual maternal acts, that transpires through loads of different situations. It doesn't necessarily mean you've had to biologically carry a child to get that energy there, but having that lived experience can absolutely add loads of value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Feel that too.
Have a little look at that. Anyway, goodness me, we're on time. We're on time. Got so much to talk about. Have you got any kind of imparting pieces of advice or wisdom, or anything you'd really like to say to anybody listening to this podcast, whether they're an aspiring parent, they're already one, or perhaps an employer?
Wow.
Never know. What you might like to say to them?
Grace, you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, just from the stories I've seen, I think mothers in dance need compassion and understanding. So if it's met with compassion and understanding, I think it would be just a better place to set inside some policy and just support. I think support your moms in dance. Yeah.
I think for like I was keep seeing the words normalize it
Yeah.
because for us the basic knowledge is so important, basic information. I think that we're still at the stage like if you can openly ask your peers or someone going through the same thing, is this normal? Is this one question? Is this normal? Somebody said this to me. Is this normal? My body going through this? Or is this normal? They now allow me to do certain things. Then hear response as other people tell you, no, that's not normal. That's not what a woman or a human should go through. That can set you into a mindset. It's like it's not my problem. It's not I'm not good enough. Like that just huge already. I think that right now, because especially in the dance world, retaliation is very, it's still like very, a danger for a lot of dancers to actually speaking up. When we have an issue, we're actually facing a lot of issues in our group. But when we're trying to collect data, we're just like even do a post, everybody will ask you to be anonymous because that's the reality of this world. Even if they don't see it, but you definitely gonna affect your career. So just thinking, even under the table, just ask somebody, is this normal? What I'm going through? And just hear the confirmation from the other side. And at least you know you're not going crazy. Then you will find this network and group of people more and more going through the same thing. Maybe one day we're willing to speak up. I think me and Grace were more in the modern contemporary world. So we're like, oh, we can like stand out a little more. Um, Alice and Ingrid are also very active in their field. I think Alice even trying to changing the union rules at Bali West.
Mhm.
And also the youth education is very important. Alex is focused on because she's in charge of the ballet school, which are a lot of youth in there. They have this wellness Wednesday they're doing. I think it's great. I think all the youth education should know that, like
Yeah.
how your body will change. And if you're back pregnancy, that sort of thing, mentally, what you're going through.
Yeah.
So they can thinking this is normal and it's possible to
And
do,
they
to
and they
be
know,
become a mother. Yeah.
yeah, I think they know what to expect. So the education component, I think, is huge.
Right.
The more you
Right.
know,
So
the more you're aware of. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
from the younger generation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is absolutely key. Similarly, we've been talking to Rombest School. We had a moment with the Texas Tech undergrads, which is great, and looking to go into London Contemporary Dance School in 2025. I mean, absolutely educating that next generation is really key. But as you both said, just so eloquently and brilliantly, it is that compassion and speaking up, but we also know that comes with real consequences.
Yeah.
I'm also sitting here painfully aware of the risks you're taking, even having this conversation with me in the current climate. And I'm really, really appreciative of that. And I know that lots of listeners and other people will be too, because now we really have to fight even harder and speak up even louder, which takes a lot of courage and energy. And I really, yeah, bringing it back round to Thanksgiving. I'm really nice
No.
there. Really grateful. And yeah, so I just want to say a huge big thank you to you, Grace, Eugene, for giving up your time today. And
No, Lucy, I I want to say thank you. I
Thank you.
feel like this is a long time coming, and you're a wealth of knowledge. And I think we're gonna have a lot of takeaways and things to talk about from this conversation. I can't wait to write down all the names that you said and research and dive in a little deeper to the data that you're providing. And yeah, I'm grateful for this meeting as well.
I think it will be great if we do collaborations on like very, very basic informations. We can maybe hosting some either Zoom meetings or maybe do IG live, just really brief on everyone the basic informations, the basic data. If we can do that, I think that can be the next step for us.
That was brilliant. Right. Well, I'm just gonna round off the end of the episode, and
Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us and listening to Dance Mamas podcast. Whether this may be your first time considering parenting in dance as a thing, or if you're a parent in dance and this has resonated with you, come on over to the Dance Mama site, that's www.dancemama.org, and see what other ways we are inspiring, informing and connecting people with families in dance, because we help parents in dance move their worlds. Bye for now.